Hey guys, welcome back to another sports stuff video. Today, we're going to be talking about the Detroit Lions and their offseason plan I laid out for them. So if you guys do enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification to be notified when I post next. Let's get into this video, the Detroit Lions and their offseason plan. Obviously, they did lose in the NFC Championship game. Really tough loss they took. But the Lions, I think they'll be back very, very soon. So starting off with our cuts or trades, they're positive $63 million. So because of that, I have none. No restructurings or cuts or trades needed to get above salary cap. No cuts or trades I want to make. I want to keep this roster how it is. I don't want to push money back. We're in prime time to make a run this year. So, 1-3 signings, we're at 63.7. The first thing we'll be doing is not re-signing Jared Goff, but signing him to an extension. This year, he had 4,500 yards, 30 touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. He's on the last year of his contract. He's been a big part of this turnaround of the Detroit Lions. Obviously, in that first season, they went, 1-15, 2-16, or 2-15, 1-16. But he's been a big part of the turnaround. Last year went 9-8. This year, obviously made it to the NFC Championship game. The next step is to go to the Super Bowl. I think he's going to be a big part of that. He's shown to be good enough to make that Super Bowl with the LA Rams. And I think that he's better and the roster is better than that Rams team was. You have no future plan on the roster right now, so might as well keep Jared Goff for a manageable number and, continue to build around him. So I gave him a 4-year, $179 million contract, $133.5 million guaranteed. That is 74% of it guaranteed. Makes him the number 9 paid quarterback in the league, just ahead of Josh Allen when it comes to average money. And for me, he's playing like a top 10 quarterback. I think he needs to get paid like a top 10 quarterback. I don't think he's going to touch the 50s, as some people may think. I think he's willing to take more of a pay cut to keep the team around him to try and win a Super Bowl. Because he's seen what it takes to win a Super Bowl. And you can't win a Super Bowl, making $60 million a year. So for me, Jared Goff gets re-signed. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is also up for an extension. But I think it's a shot that they actually franchise tag Amon-Ra St. Brown next year to work out a deal. But Jared Goff, the franchise tag would be like $50 million. So might as well just get him on a 4-year extension. Keep him in Detroit. He's good enough to win a Super Bowl. I think that you can definitely manage with Jared Goff in Detroit. Then we have Graham Glasgow, the next guy to be re-signing. Graham, he had a 65. I think it was a 65. I think it was a 65 PFF grade, 56 pass blocking, 82 run blocking, 5 penalties and 2 sacks allowed. He played in place of hurt interior offensive lineman. Starting the season, he was gonna be the backup center and backup swing guard, but because Halapaliti Vaitai just kind of underperformed and Jonah Jackson was underperforming, Graham Glasgow got thrusted in the starting job, and honestly, he played pretty good. He's a starting level guard, amazing run blocker, and I think that the run game is what makes this team go to the Super Bowl. I think they can keep the run game going and keep that the focal point of the team. Then off the dominant run game of David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, they then have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, whatever wide receiver you want to throw in there. I think that is how you're going to win on this offense, and the defense just needs to get better. So I gave Graham Glasgow a 2-year, $8 million deal, $5.5 million guaranteed. That is 68% of it guaranteed. Then I'm going to be re-signing Josh Reynolds. Josh Reynolds had 40 receptions, 608 yards, and 5 touchdowns last season. He's really revamped his career in Detroit. He was with the Rams for a few years when Jared Goff was there. Then when Jared Goff came to Detroit, he followed Jared Goff that same offseason. He seems to be a big third down threat for them. Every time I watched the Lions game, he was always being targeted when it came down to, we had to get this down, right? Josh Reynolds, go across the middle of the field. Amon-Ra spread the defense and throw the ball to Josh Reynolds. And obviously, I think he wants to come back and avenge his NFC Championship game. He did not play well in the NFC Championship game. He was dropping easy balls. He was getting, covered by defenders. I think Josh Reynolds wants to come back and prove that, I'm better than that. And I think he wants to help the Lions win a Super Bowl because, they were so close to going to the Super Bowl. And a Lions-Chiefs Super Bowl, that could have gone either way. So for me, I'm going to re-sign him for a 2-year, $11 million deal, $7.5 million guaranteed. That's 68% of it guaranteed. I think, he's currently their wide receiver 3. He's starting for them. You have Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams, Josh Reynolds. I think you can sign guys and draft guys behind that. But outside of those 3 guys, wide receiver is very thin. So they can bring back Josh Reynolds to continue that dominance of, 600 to 800 yards, 3 to 5 touchdowns a season. Then I'm going to be re-signing C.J. Gardner-Johnson as well. First, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he had 17 tackles, an interception, and 6 stops this past season. Obviously, he missed all but 2 weeks in the regular season due to an injury. I think that definitely hurt them. Obviously, they had a great season. They were, they went to the NFC Championship game. But in the playoffs, you could tell his secondary was different with him playing. Because originally it was a season-ending injury. But because it was so early in the season, he could come back during the playoffs. And in my opinion, he played amazing in the playoffs. I thought he played really well. And you could tell the secondary was better with him in the roster. I want him to come back and run it back and actually play a full season. Detroit needs to re-sign him. He's a big needed secondary. He's a great secondary member. He wants to be in Detroit from last year. I think he wants a bigger contract, but because of the injury, you got to sign him to a 1-year deal. He doesn't. You don't want to make your defense woes worse by letting go of your best secondary member. So they gave him a 1-year, $7 million deal, fully guaranteed. He got a $500,000 pay raise from last year, and he gets to stay with the team that took a shot on him last year. So next, there's no picture of Jerry Jacobs. That's weird. So Jerry Jacobs, my next re-signing. He had 51 tackles, 3 interceptions, and 15 stops. He's honestly a really good outside corner. And I think you could definitely bring him back for pretty cheap. He had an up and down season due to injury. I understand that does suck, but I think you run it back with a young, promising corner. He was a former UFA, became a starter for this Dan Campbell defense. I think that Dan Campbell really likes Jerry Jacobs. I think Jerry Jacobs plays really well for this team. So what I'm going to be doing is, instead of signing him to a multi-year deal for probably cheaper, I'm going to give him a first-round tender. So if a team in the NFL wants Jerry Jacobs, they not only have to sign him to a contract extension, they have to send the Detroit Lions a first-round pick. So basically, it is a franchise tag, because I don't think anyone's going to sign Jerry Jacobs and trade a first-round pick for him. But I think if it was a second-round pick or an original round tender, they definitely would. That's why, hey, if you really want Jerry Jacobs, trade it first, and he's going to get paid a lot of money. So $7 million for Jerry Jacobs. A little bit of an overpay, but I think he's earned it. I think the Lions want to keep him, but they're willing to part ways with him for a first-round pick, obviously. Then, here's all the tenders I'm going to be doing. Obviously, Jerry Jacobs. I'm also going to be doing James Houston, former Jackson State linebacker, moved to edge rusher by the Lions, and it's been pretty well for them as a rotational pass rusher. Then Zonovan Knight, the former Jets running back. For $1 million, keep a third string running back for $1 million who has some upside. That's all what you want. Craig Reynolds. I believe Craig Reynolds is their wide receiver, if I'm not mistaken. But I've seen him play multiple snaps in the playoffs. They honestly trust him more than a lot of other guys. And for $1 million, you keep a guy that knows the system. Then Benito Jones, same thing. I decided to do an original round tender, so I think that would be a third or a fourth round pick. They have to trade for Benito Jones if they want to sign him. But he didn't start towards the end of the season. He had Tyson Alualu take over his spot. There's definitely some issues with Benito Jones, but he's a young player. You pay him $3 million to either ride the bench or develop, and you part ways next year. Then Brock Wright, before Sam Laporta, Brock Wright was going to be the starter this year. I think Brock Wright is a pretty good receiving tight end, has some run blocking prowess. For $3 million, it's a little bit of an overpay, but same thing, if they want Brock Wright, they have to send an original round pick to get Brock Wright, which I believe was a 6th or a 7th round pick. So to get Brock Wright, you have to trade a 6th or a 7th round pick. So you lose $16 million in tenders, meaning that your free agency number is 31.3. And the first free agency I'm going to be doing is Xavier Howard. He just got cut by the Miami Dolphins. I think the Detroit Lions are a great scheme fit. He had 38 tackles, 1 interception, 8 stops this past year. His best years are definitely behind him due to injuries. He had 29 interceptions in his Miami career, especially it was 2019 or 2020 where he tied to lead the league in interceptions. He's a great ball hawking corner when healthy. But again, I think he's 30, 31 years old now. His best years are behind him, but he helps boost the worst part of this roster, which is the cornerback room. It raises the floor. Yeah, he's not all pro Xavier Howard, but he's still better than Cam Sutton, better than Emmanuel Mosley, better than Jerry Jacobs. Like, he's still the number 1 corner on this team if he does sign here. Then he also helps develop the young guys in the room, like Jerry Jacobs. I think that'd be really good for Jerry Jacobs, another ball hawking corner, to kind of learn from Xavier Howard. Hey, here's what you gotta do to be successful. Here's what you gotta not do. It's how I made it. I think that makes a lot of sense. 1 year, $9 million for Xavier Howard. Then Tim Settle, I'm gonna be bringing over to the Detroit Lions as well. He had 9 tackles, a sack, and 9 stops. He's a solid rotational D tackle. He's definitely a better run defender than pass rusher, but I think he still has pass rushing upside. He's a solid rotational D tackle from the Washington Commanders over to the Buffalo Bills the last 2 years. He is still only 26 years old, which is shocking because he's been in the league since 2018. He's still only 26 years old. He's entering the prime of his career. I think that there is a role for him on this Detroit Lions team. Because again, you got Aleem McNeil. Obviously, you pair him next to Aleem McNeil, see if he blooms. But next to Aleem McNeil, you have Tim Settle, Benito Jones, or maybe a rookie, maybe another free agent veteran. Fill that D tackle room with rotation guys next to Aleem McNeil, and hopefully one of those guys can develop into something. Gave him a 1 year, $4 million deal. Next, we have Noah Brown. It's actually my last sign is to be Noah Brown. Noah Brown had 33 receptions, 567 yards, and 2 touchdowns this past season with the Houston Texans. He's a really solid deep threat. that I think went under the radar in Dallas. The fact that he didn't really sign for all that money, or much money for Houston, is really impressive of Houston to find that in the depth of free agency. He showed off with CJ Stroud, a really good deep ball thrower. I think Jared Goff has a pretty deep, a pretty deep ball throw. I think Noah Brown can kind of provide a solid option for on the outside, because right now you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who is good on the outside but better work in the middle of the field. You have Jameson Williams, who just can't stay on the field for whatever reason, and when he is on the field, he's not as effective as you want him to be. You have Josh Reynolds I re-signed as more of that same thing, intermediate game. Sign Noah Brown to really truly spread this offense out. Jameson has yet to prove to be a number one X or a wide receiver, so you bring Noah Brown in. Him, Reynolds can kind of rotate in at that wide receiver 3 spot. You still have I'm trying to think of his name. You still have Craig Reynolds as well to go in there. Like, it's get more deep threat options for this offense. Sign him to a 2-year, $14 million deal, $10 million guaranteed, 71% guaranteed, and that means we're going to the draft with $13.7 million. No cuts, no trades, so no trade draft picks. It is the original 7 draft picks I have, and in those original draft picks, here's what I decided to go with. So at number 1, I'm gonna grab Kamari Lassiter at pick 29. I still see him as a really high upside corner who is a first-round grade in my book. He's a true number 1 lockdown corner. He allowed only 38.5% completion percentage. To put that in perspective, Joey Porter Jr. in the NFL allowed the league least 41.8%. So Kamari Lassiter, yes, worse competition, but still dominated the competition he went up against. That's all you can ask for a college player, is just dominate the guys that you're going up against. And Kamari Lassiter did that. He allowed 0 touchdowns this last season. He's a great bet on the outside. If he makes it to 29, I don't see him going past the Lions. Then at 61, I'm going to be grabbing Jaden Hicks from Washington State. A guy I don't draft that often because he's always one of those guys that is always on the outside for me. I do like Jaden Hicks, though. He has 124 tackles since last year, becoming the full-time starter. He's a good coverage safety. He's a good hard hitter as well. I see him more as that box safety, strong safety guy. Him and CJ Gardner-Johnson have a lot of similarities. I think CJ Gardner-Johnson is a more refined version of that role. But if CJ doesn't want to sign a long-term deal after this season, I could see Jaden Hicks stepping up with him. Brian Branch as well, playing that same exact role. I think those two guys can dominate the intermediate game and just don't let receivers inside of the 15-yard line from the 15 yards from the line of scrimmage. Him and Brian Branch would be lethal on the inside. Just being missiles, blitzing, just being missiles when it comes to hitting balls out of guys' hands. I really want to see that in the Detroit Lions room. Then at 73, another guy I don't really draft that often is Jamari Thrash from Louisville. Jamari Thrash, he has great ball tracking skills deep downfield. I don't really know if he's a true number 1 receiver, but I think he definitely, again, like I said with Noah Brown, provides that deep threat ability of a guy who has the upside to be a wide receiver 1, but I don't know if he's ever going to hit that ceiling due to opportunity and taking the chance of that opportunity. His separation is my only worry. Yes, he has really good deep ball speed, but he doesn't have enough, yes, off a burst he's good, but he doesn't have that long speed to continue the separation, so the defender kind of catches up to him. But Jamari Thrash, if you guys watch him at Louisville, he can be a true deep threat ability guy. Don't know if he's a wide receiver 1, but again, this Lions team has Amon-Ra St. Brown, has Jameson Williams as their hopeful number 1 and 2 receiver. Now you're just filling out the different role players, right? Noah Brown, Jamari Thrash, the deep threat guys who can still, play more than just a deep threat role. Josh Reynolds would be that third down chain mover. Craig Reynolds would throw in there for speed. It is adding more mixture to the fire. Then at 92, I'm going to grab Chris Abrams-Drain, a guy, again, last year I was pretty high on coming out of Missouri. Thought he would come out of the draft, never did. Went back to college. He's great in coverage, more than likely a slot guy in the NFL, which is A-okay. Kamari Lassiter outside, Xavier Howard outside, Jerry Jacobs and Chris Abrams-Drain, going in on the slot and outside as well. I definitely like that rotation of cornerbacks more. You throw Cam Sutton as well in there as well. That is a really good cornerback room that I built there this offseason. He bites too often on big plays. Now, those big plays could either be interceptions, or those big plays are he gets beat trying to get an interception and it's a touchdown. So if he can, not be as aggressive as he is every play, choose when you're aggressive, choose when you just let the guy catch the ball. Because I think he does bite sometimes, and it bites him in the ass. Then at 163, I'm grabbing A.J. Barner from Michigan. So we have Sam Laporta as a receiving tight end. I'm bringing A.J. Barner in as the run-blocking tight end. So you have Brock Wright, Sam Laporta, and AJ Barner. I think that's a really good tight end room. He's probably the best run blocking tight end in this draft. It lets you be more versatile in 12 and 13 personnel. So whether it's 2 tight ends or 3 tight ends, you could have AJ Barner, Brock Wright, Sam Laporta in the red zone. I think that's what 5 offensive linemen and then AJ Barner, and then you have Brock Wright, Sam Laporta, and Jahmyr Gibbs running route. I really want to see that because Sam Laporta is still a good run blocker. Brock Wright is okay, but AJ Barner is that true get me downfield. I'm gonna run block no matter what type of guy from Michigan. And I think with this run game that they have, I'm really doubling down. I'm making this run game dominant. AJ Barner can help with that, being that 6th man in the line at the tight end position. Because then on the goal line, you put AJ Barner in, you bring in your 6th man off the line, Dan Skipper. That is 7 guys on the offensive line that are all really good blockers. Then you have 8 Jared Goff, 9 the running back. You have 2 more guys they can just throw out there and just really the power formation, get a fullback in there, and just run the ball down people's throats. Then at 207, I want to get a shot on a wide receiver from a FCS school in David White Jr. from Western Carolina. He's a big body wide receiver at 6'4". I see him. I'm really excited to see what he could do in the NFL. I think he's probably gonna get undrafted, but seeing a 6'4" wide receiver who had like 500 yards the last 2 years each year, I see him as more as a red zone threat. I think that's really good. And I think he can replace Donovan Peoples-Jones as a big body receiver, a jump ball receiver. I could maybe see some special teams ability as well. I haven't seen much of his film. Usually when I'm drafting guys, I'll go back and watch one of their games. So I've seen like 4 or 5 minutes of David White Jr. in Western Carolina. So I cannot say if he has the long speed to be a returner, but at least be another big body receiver like DPJ was that they traded for in this wide receiver room. Then at 247, same thing, Evan Anderson. You're taking a shot at a D tackle with high upside. I watched 2 minutes of Evan Anderson film. I'm going to be honest with you guys. It's a shot in the dark. He's very athletic for his size, though. He's 6'3", 356. All of the draft websites that I respect have Evan Anderson as a draftable player. And, you know, when it comes to FAU guys, you're either draftable or you're not. Like, there is no, like, oh, he could be drafted. He's very draftable, they're saying. They're saying 5th, 6th round. You get him in the 7th. He takes up lanes with his wide frame. He's a really good run blocker, but he actually shows burst and explosiveness as a push pass rusher at 356 pounds. I would like to take a shot on him. You know, next to Ali McNeil, you either have a really good run defender with some pass rush prowess, or, you know, you have a guy who's a good rotation guy. Like, it's a shot in the dark, but from the 2 minutes I watched and from the respected guys that I listen to, Evan Anderson has upside to at least play in the NFL. And in the 7th round, that's all you can really ask for. But if you guys enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. I think all this offseason moves, you retain the key guys, you sign on secondary members and another wide receiver to help you kind of expand your offensive game and solidify your secondary. Then in the draft, you draft 3 secondary members, 2 wide receivers, a blocking tight end, and a defensive lineman. That is all the areas they either need depth or immediate impact guys at to really go over the hump that they had in the NFC Championship game. But if you guys enjoy, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification button to be notified when I post next. I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.